Welcome to the Screener College Basketball Podcast with your hosts, Mike Randle and Gus Kearns.
Welcome back to the Screener College Basketball Podcast, where we continue on our mission to preview each and every one of the 357 Division I basketball teams. I'm your host, Mike Randle. You can follow me on Twitter at RandleRand. And today, we don't want to go to war with the Rams. We go down to VCU to interview Wayne Epps Jr., VCU athletics beat writer for the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Does a fantastic job. VCU is one of those hot programs. They are a talented team. Whoever they play, it's always going to be a tough game. They have the best fight song, I think, in college basketball. So we're going to talk to Wayne today. Follow him on Twitter at Wayne Epps Jr. Wayne, thank you so much for joining us. How you doing today?
Doing well. I appreciate you having me. How are you?
Doing okay. College hoops is back. COVID hopefully is slowly in the rearview mirror, and we have hoops around the corner with filled stadiums, which is what we love. And I want to talk about the Rams. Mike Rhodes here has done a very strong job. VCU, ever since Shaka Smart, has always been competitive. It is a national brand now. Mike Rhodes entering his 5th season. Let's start with last year. How did it go? How did everything go with COVID? Were there any cancellations? And talk about the season on a whole for the Rams last year in 2020, 2021.
Yeah, last year, I guess if you could sum it up, it just a lot of proving people wrong, if you could say that. You know, there was a team that was picked to finish 9th in the A-10 because they lost a big senior class from the previous year. That was really important throughout Mike Rhodes' first few years in the program, and losing them, it was expected to be kind of a transition year, last year, but then you see Bones Hyland really take off from his freshman and sophomore year and really carry the team offensively and got a lot better defensively too. And you saw some of the younger pieces really meshing well together, and VCU continuing to play strong defense. And really, VCU obviously built that brand with Shaka Smart of pressing the havoc. The VCU continued last year to build a foundation of playing very solid half-court defense as well. They were 4th in the nation in blocks at 5.4 per game and 5th in steals at 9.2 per game. So, they play well in the half-court, forced a lot of turnovers, which they always do as well. So that was a big key to last year's success, and yeah, they end up doing very well in conference, and they had Bones Hyland had a foot injury late in the year, and they kind of hurt them in the end of regular season play in the A-10. But then when he came back, he sort of carried them to the A-10 final. With this play, and like I said, his breakout year last year was a big key, averaging 19.8 points per game, which led the A-10. And, just kind of on his back, paired with the strong defense inside with the blocks, led by Corey Douglas and Hassan Ward, who's another impressive young player, now a junior all of a sudden, but led by those guys inside, very strong interior defense too. And, again, they kind of really proved a lot of people wrong in being a top 4 finisher, earning the double bye and making it to the conference title game. And, they also did very well in avoiding a lot of major COVID interruptions. They had just one scare where it was kind of a weekend thing. Where they had to pause things because I believe it was just a contact tracing thing, and then they came right back to practice that Sunday. It was a Saturday game that was postponed, but other than that, the other postponements that they did have were sort of their opponents having some issues. But then at the very end of the season, they did run into the COVID issue in the NCAA tournament, and obviously their game against Oregon was declared a no contest because they had some cases going through their team in Indianapolis, which is unfortunate. After they earned the at-large bid, they lost to St. Bonaventure in the A-10 final in Dayton. So, but just overall, this is a team that wasn't even expected to get that far, But so it was a successful season in Mike Rhodes' second NCAA tournament berth. Since he came back to the program, and now losing Bones Hyland, they kind of step into possibly another transition year, but also a year where they have a lot of depth with battling a couple of injuries. So it's gonna be interesting.
It's interesting you bring up that game that was a no contest. I mean, one of the games that we had circled, I believe it was, a 7-10 game, something like that. I mean, it really was a unique spot, and that must have been disappointing because they looked very good. We saw them. We're based out of New Jersey. They had that run in the middle of the year, Dayton, LaSalle, Rhode Island, Dayton, St. Bonaventure, Richmond, just game after game there, and certainly playing at home always difficult for VCU. But with Hyland back, St. Bonaventure was very strong, of course, but you had a nice win in the A-10 conference tournament over Dayton, another nice win over Davidson, and a tough game against St. Bonaventure. They could have made some noise in the tournament. That was a very disappointing way, I think, for everyone to sort of end the season abruptly.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, in that 17 matchup, that was a very intriguing matchup. And I think VCU with their pace, really would have tried to speed Oregon up and could have created some problems there for Oregon in that game. So that was a very intriguing matchup. I was very much looking forward to seeing that game. And I actually got a chance to go out to Indianapolis. We're supposed to cover that game, and then just a couple hours before tip off, we get the news about the no contest. So that was just a crazy situation. So very unfortunate. And then they had a rough sort of aftermath of that. Like the guys who had were tested positive because of their status, not wanting to put them on a plane, they had to bus all the way back to Richmond from Indianapolis. And so it was just a rough situation there, and it kind of really let down after, like you said, they didn't play as well as they wanted to against St. Bonaventure in the final, but still it was a team that was playing pretty strongly at the end of the year. And I had a chance, like you said, to make some noise in the tournament, and did not get that chance. That's pretty devastating for them.
Yeah, they're going to return this year, Wayne. Most of the contributors from last year's team finished second, like you said, in the conference, and they're going to be lethal on defense, as they always are. No Bones Hyland and no Ace Baldwin until at least mid-year with an Achilles injury. So without those players coming back, talk about the veterans who are returning here, who are going to sort of have to steady the ship and get you off to a good start until Baldwin comes back.
Yeah, well, I think definitely number one on that list will be Vince Williams, who's now a senior, very versatile player. Could really play every position 1 through 4 if he wants to, and VC might stick him in any position 1 through 4. Just a very very talented wing. And I think he's gonna have to start. He's been one of those guys who's sort of been the Batman to Bones' Robin last year, I think, and the Robin to Bones' Batman last year.
This year it has to be Batman, right?
Yeah, exactly. So he has to step up into more of a leadership role, which would be interesting to see for him. I feel like he's a little bit more on the quieter side, but for all indications, everyone's saying it's like he's taking more of that responsibility over the summer. So it'll be interesting to see him take that over. I think he'll be sort of in a leadership duo with the other senior and KeShawn Curry, who had an unfortunate situation with him, but to finish the season last year. Had a family member was passed away ended up missing the last few games, but he came back to the team and now has a chance to step into a senior leadership role as well. So I think those two. But then they add some intriguing newcomers who are going to have bigger roles because of the injuries to, like you mentioned, Ace, and then they had another unfortunate one last week. Jameer Watkins tore ACL. He was going to be a guy who had a chance to take a big freshman to sophomore leap, 6'7" wing, who can play the 2 and the 3. So without him, that creates more opportunity for a couple other guys as well. But I think like I said, Vince and KeShawn will be the main leaders. You also have another experienced guy back in Levi Stocker III, who decided to use the extra year. He was a former Kansas State guy who transferred to VCU before the previous season. And he ended up being making some big contributions down the stretch in A-10 play. He's really more like your traditional big. VCU Rhodes' bigs tend to be more stretch bigs and very versatile bigs who can defend multiple positions. But they added Levi, who adds some versatility and being more of a bigger, stout sort of big who can sort of bang down low a little bit. And so it'll be interesting to see how he continues to grow. Because like I said, you saw him grow in the system in A-10 play last year. So with his experience, I think he has a chance to be a leader as well.
I've talked to several coaches. Kermit Davis mentioned this from Ole Miss, as well as writers. I think the key to this season is going to be how coaches blend in the transfers. You have 2 that I can see: Jimmy Nichols coming in and transferring, I believe, from Providence, and Marcus Tsohonis coming in from Washington. You have players who are veterans that have experience, the old school mentality of, freshmen come in, they sit unless they're like a superstar. This is different now. You have your veteran guys who expect to play. You have transfers coming in, and you have freshmen who we'll get to in a minute. But talk about the 2 transfers, Nichols and Tsohonis coming in. I think they're going to contribute right away.
Yeah, especially Marcus again with the injury to Ace. I think that you're going to see a lot of Marcus. Obviously, either at point guard or at the two guard, he can play both. Play both at Washington. So, you're going to see a lot of him at point guard. We'll talk about Jaden Nunn, one of the freshmen, but I think you'll see a lot of him at point guard too. And then Jimmy, he battled some tough injuries at Providence that kind of stunted him, I think, a little bit. He missed the end of this past season. He had an eye injury. He had to get surgery on his eye and missed the last several games for Providence this past year, but he's back healthy. And he again fits that mold of VCU bigs who are very versatile and very mobile. And so I think he has a chance to be sort of a dark horse, big time contributor for the team this year. Because again, people haven't seen a lot of him because he's dealt with so many injuries, but getting into the VCU system, I think he fits very well as a big. But he can play either the 4 or the 5 for them. So I'm very curious to see more of him in this VCU system. But I think both have a chance. Maybe Marcus more to start, but both have a chance to make some big time contributions this year.
Now, we have freshmen coming in. VCU just every year is lethal with recruiting. They were ranked number 1 by 24/7 Sports in the A10 the prior year. This year, they're ranked number 2. 3 jumping off the page here. Nichols Kern, who's a 3-star from Missouri. Jalen Deloach, who's a 3-star from Georgia. And you talked already for a second about Jaden Nunn. VCU has depth. They bring relentless pressure. That's what we love to watch about them. It's exciting. I think these freshmen are going to have some impact here. Talk about them during this upcoming season.
Yeah, to touch back on Jaden, he's really impressed from all indications. Like Mike Rose was talking about over summer that he was in the gym more than anybody, working. And he mentioned on another podcast with Rivals Jamie Shaw back in August that if they had to play a game at that point, that Jaden Nunn would start, and that continues to be the case heading into as the preseason continues. So he's really impressed. And I think like Ace was last year, he had the chance to start as a true freshman at point guard, probably coming out of the gate against St. Peter's on the 9th. He was a Power 5 commit, former Iowa State commit, and he decommitted. And one of VCU's assistant coaches, Brent Scott, has a lot of Michigan connections, and Jaden is from Flint, Michigan. And so when he decommitted from Iowa State, they jumped in heavy on Jaden and were able to secure him back in the spring, as sort of a late commit to the class. So he's a big time. He was a big time ad for them. Like I said, because of that, he has a chance to play right away with the injury to Ace. And then Nick Kern, very athletic, 6'6" guard, who might get some more minutes at the 2 with the injury to Jameer too. So you may see more of him earlier than as well. But he can jump out of the gym. There's sort of a viral video that was going around from his senior season this past winter where he dunked on this guy, and you could hear one of his teammates as he's going up. He's saying, "On his head," and he just elevates like crazy, like he has like springs on his feet and dunks over this guy. He played at KeShawn, which is a very has a lot of tradition in St. Louis. Won a lot of championships in St. Louis. So he comes out of a big time program and a big time player. And same with Jalen Deloach. He's a athletic big man, 6'9". Can also, depending on the lineup, play probably the 4 or the 5, probably more the 4, but he can shoot it. So he's a stretch big, and very athletic guy as well. And I know they like him a lot too, out of Georgia. So like you said, it's now a big recruiting haul this year, and that depth will help make up for the injuries that they have heading into the year.
Wayne, I love when I have a reporter on and they give me the video to search on social media to put on the YouTube, and I think you just did that. So hopefully we can get that in. Let's talk about the non-conference. So VCU last year was really impressed with their non-conference. I loved watching them. I was writing them for Action Network early. Utah State, West Virginia, Memphis, Penn State, all tough games. Should have won that Penn State game. Really unfortunate. But they had a challenging schedule. They got off to a great start, 7-2 rather, right after James Madison got into the regular season. So who do they have on tap this year? Any multi-team tournaments? What do they have coming up in non-conference?
Yeah, like I said, it'll get started with St. Peter's on the 9th, but the highlight of that non-conference is they'll be down in the Battle for Atlantis, one of the noted multi-team tournaments on Thanksgiving week. So it'll start out with Syracuse, and then the second game they'll play will be either against Baylor or against Arizona State. Yeah. Then they'll play a third game, and that tournament also has Michigan State, Loyola Chicago, UConn, So it's a stacked field. Auburn as well. So that's going to be a big time tournament, a chance to get some resume building wins down there. So that'll be the highlight of the non-conference schedule. Now the highlight, you mentioned that, of course, they had that buzzer beating loss at Penn State last year. Yeah, and that was a home series. So Penn State will come to VCU in December. So that'll be another big time matchup for them. Otherwise, just they have the annual game they play against ODU, which is like this old CA rivalry that they've kept alive. And those teams have played almost 100 times in their history, so that's always a big time game, no matter what. So that'll be an interesting matchup. But again, the highlight of that would be that battle for Atlantis. That'll be a big time testing ground for them, especially because I feel like this team, unfortunately, with the injuries to Ace and Jahmir, when these new guys coming in, you could see some hot and cold early as these guys learn to play with each other. And so as they sort of maybe galvanize in the battle for Atlantis, I think that has a chance to be an interesting testing ground. And could kind of help set some things, because last year you could say the same thing about this team. They played in kind of ironically the crossover classic last fall, which was supposed to be the battle for Atlantis. It got moved to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and renamed the crossover classic because of COVID. And Rose talked a lot about throughout the year, he felt like that was a big time moment for them because they played well against West Virginia in that tournament. And I think he believed that kind of gave the team a lot of confidence playing the way they played in that tournament. So who knows, if they play well down the battle for Atlantis, that could end up being a good galvanizing moment for this sort of new collaboration of players this year.
Yeah, big win over Memphis, 70-59. Curry had 14, Bones had 12, and Vince Williams chipped in 15 as well. Wayne, listen, one more question. You've been incredibly kind, then we will get you out of here. I know you're busy. What do you say with VCU this year? Last year, they were underrated, which is a criminal in the A-10, came out, showed out, and they were one of the best teams again. What are the fans hoping for? Is it really just that simple at VCU? They want the A-10 title? Is that what they're looking for? What are the expectations you think for what would be a solid season, real strong season for VCU this year?
Yeah. Like you said, it's always with VCU, it's always A-10 title and NCAA tournament. Like you said, ever since the Shaka Smart years, like NCAA tournament bid has become the expectation. But it's hard. Like it seems like there's been a couple times since Rose has been back as a head coach where they've sort of been counted out and end up surprising people. That the first time was during the 18-19 season. They were picked 7th in the league and end up making the NCAA tournament that year too. So it's always hard to sort of count them out, even if he expects to be a little bit of a transition. So I think this year was returning so many guys from last year's successful team. I think a success would be just earning a top 4 seed in the A-10 and earning a lot of double bye and just kind of seeing where the chips lay from there, and possibly either if they're in position for at-large bid, if they do well in non-conference, or just in position to make the A-10 final and try to get that automatic bid. I think that would be a success for this year's team, just considering, again, there's so many new guys being injected into this group, but at the same time, you have so many returners who know what it takes, and dealing with some big-time injuries too. So I think the fan base will be happy with a top 4 seed and then just try to fire it out in the A-10 tournament to see where it can go.
Well, we know that VCU is going to be in the mix. They have an incredible brand of basketball, really talented, exciting, and we appreciate Wayne Epps Jr. giving us a few minutes here. Absolute must follow on Twitter, Wayne Epps Jr. JR, writes for the Richmond Times-Dispatch, covers VCU, all things VCU. Wayne, we are excited. Love to have you on later in the year as we get into some of those matchups there, the rivalry with ODU, talk about the battle for Atlantis, and then the regular season, because I know that once we get to March, VCU is again going to be in the mix for sure. Thanks so much for a few minutes.
Definitely. I appreciate you having me. Thank you very much.